The state is present, the defense is present, and the defendant is present and dressed out. We're here in the state of Florida versus Curtis Reeves. State, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Defense, you ready to proceed?
We are, Your Honor.
All right, call your next witness, please, defense.
The defense would call Margaret Scalise.
Margaret Scalise. How would I spell that last name, please?
S-C-A-L-I-S-E.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Hi. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Come on up and have a seat, please. You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mrs. Scalise. Would you please, for the record, state your full name?
Margaret Scalise.
Mrs. Scalise, would you give the court a little bit of history concerning your employment history, your past employment history?
I started working at Busch Gardens in 1977 and worked in various parts of the park, and then ended up in the office where in 1993 I met Curtis, and then I went into the benefits office. Okay, and worked there till 2009. I'm
gonna slow you down a little bit. I want you to sit back and relax. Let's talk a little bit about your time that you moved into the office. What do you mean by into the office of Busch Entertainment?
I was originally hired and worked on the monorail, and I did that for a year. And then I worked out in the park, and I served beer at the hospitality house for a year. And then I applied for a secretarial position in 1980.
Okay, and you were hired or rehired or promoted, I should say, right?
Right.
To a secretarial position at Busch. And secretaries for whom?
I worked for the general services manager for 11 years and the operations manager for 6 years, and then I became the benefits coordinator for the last 10 years.
Okay, are you still working for Busch?
No, I retired in 2008.
Okay. Do you know Curtis Reeves?
Yes, I do.
And how was it that you were able to come to know Curtis Reeves?
Well, actually, my husband worked for Busch Gardens also in the security department. And when Curtis was hired, my husband was working with Curtis at that time, or for Curtis. And I met him through that association where they worked together.
When you first met Curtis, what was your husband's position there at Busch?
He was a security manager.
Okay, what is a security manager?
He's in charge of the area managers throughout the park and Adventure Island, and they all report to him, and then he reported to Curtis.
Okay. Busch Gardens and Adventure Island, that is two locations that are visited by many individuals, is that correct?
Yes.
Approximately how many individuals would you say on a daily basis attend those two parks?
During the busy season, it could be up to 25 to 30,000 people. On an average day, probably 15 to 20,000 people.
Okay, and so security is quite important for Busch Entertainment?
Yes.
and hiring the right personnel is quite important as well.
Yes.
And your husband had a managerial position in that department?
Yes.
And so he had many individuals that he supervised under him, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, do you know if he had applied for the position of Director of Security for Busch Gardens?
When the previous manager left, my husband also applied for that promotion position, as well as Curtis.
Before Curtis was hired, was your husband the acting director for a period of time?
Yes.
How long was your husband the acting director of security?
Approximately 6 months, maybe.
Okay. And so your husband was competing with Mr. Reeves for that same position?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves gets hired?
Yes.
And is that how you met him?
Yes.
Tell the court a little bit how your relationship with Mr. Reeves developed over the years.
As the security manager and the vice president of security, they would go on conferences throughout the United States at different theme parks. And it happened once a year. They'd attend these theme parks meetings. And the wives got to come along as kind of a vacation situation. So the men would be in their conferences and meetings for 3 or 4 days, and the women would get to basically have a vacation and tour around. And then when we went to these conventions, Curtis and his wife and my husband and I would tack on 3 or 4 days at the end of the conference, and we would tour around and vacation in the various areas in the United States.
We're talking about 2003?
Approximately, yes.
Okay. And so when Mr. Reeves was hired as a director of security for Busch, your husband stayed in his position as manager of security, is that correct?
Right.
That was a position directly under Mr.
Right.
Reeves?
Yes.
Okay. And these trips that you all would have once a year were to various parts of the country?
Yes.
And so you got to know Mr. Reeves on a not only
personal
professional,
level.
but now a personal level.
Right.
Level, is that correct?
We probably took 8 to 10 of these vacations over the years. And yes, we got to be very good friends.
Ate breakfast with him?
Yes.
Lunch with him?
Yes.
Dinner with him?
Yes.
Went shopping with them?
Yes.
Tell the court your feelings of Mr. Reeves back in those days when Mr. Reeves was the director of security and you all would go on these vacations and seminars.
We always had, I always knew I would have a wonderful time because Curtis was a very thorough person in looking into the areas that we were going to visit and finding the points of interest that we would enjoy. And we toured around and did historical things and fun things. And he was very conscious of taking us to places and bringing us back safely. I always felt very safe because he knew where he was going and he knew how to get back home safely.
So now in these trips, you've gotten to experience Curtis on a personal level, as well as you experienced Curtis on a professional level while he was working there at Busch.
Yes.
Tell the court what you experienced as far as Mr. Reeves' temperament, first on a professional level.
To be manager of the security of Busch Gardens, it takes a lot of responsibility because there's always a potential for things to happen or something to go wrong. So you have to always be, I think he always used the word proactive on how to make sure everything was going to, be safe and secure. I thought according to my husband, he introduced quite a few different programs into Busch Gardens to ensure that the safety of the employees as well as the guests would be, maintained.
I'm more concerned with your interaction with him on a professional level.
Well, I didn't have to, as far as professionally, we didn't interact too much. He had his own secretary, but I did maybe set up some meetings and do occasionally typing for him on that level.
Did you ever see there at Busch Gardens Mr. Reeves losing his temper?
Never. Never.
What type of demeanor did he carry there at Busch Gardens?
He appeared very confident in different situations that might arise, and very thorough and just, I never saw him upset. I've never heard him say a curse word.
Well, let's talk about from a personal level on these trips that you would take, both for the seminars and on these little outings that you had thereafter. What was his temperament around you on a day-to-day basis and your husband? He's
got a very, very good sense of humor. We always had a fun time, a good time. Like I said, he would make sure that wherever we went was always going to be, a good experience for us. And he never got angry. Even if we got lost, it was an adventure, driving through the countryside.
Now, he worked for Bush Entertainment for a period of time, and then he retired. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you all maintain outside of these functions for seminars for Bush Entertainment? Did you all maintain any sort of friendship? Did you all develop a friendship where, separate and apart from these trips, you all would meet to go to dinner?
Yes.
Hang out?
Yes, we did. We went out to dinner on many occasions. We would, actually in the last couple years, we developed kind of a routine of meeting for lunch and visiting.
I'm going to take you there, but I want, during the time of employment, did you all maintain some type of friendship as well?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and you all would go out to
dinner
together,
yes.
Socialize together. Tell
yes.
the court what you experienced of Mr. Reeves during that contact.
We always would go out to dinner and just have a fun discussion of current events or whatever. It was always lighthearted and.
Did you ever experience Mr. Reeves ever getting agitated or lose his temper or become violent in any way?
Never, never, never.
Was
never.
that his temperament at all?
I never even heard him raise his voice. He would probably get quieter rather than, saying something.
Now, retirement takes place for Mr. Reeves.
Yes.
When did you retire?
In 08.
In 08. Do you know when Mr. Reeves retired?
I think 03, something like that. Several years earlier.
Several years earlier than your retirement?
Yes.
Okay. And so now you retire. Do you have any further contact with Mr. Reeves after retirement?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that.
We continued to go out to dinner, exchange, emails, jokes on the computer, and we would have a routine of going to the movies, going to lunch, going to the movies, and then going to get ice cream.
Okay. So you've been to the movies with Mr. Reeves and his wife Vivian?
Yes.
The four of you?
Yes.
You, your husband, Vivian, and Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Tell the court approximately how many times you've had the occasion to go with Mr. Reeves, your husband, and Vivian to the movies.
Over the last 10 years, probably 20-plus times.
And do you know what movie theater you all frequented?
We went to the Cobb Theater in Land O'Lakes.
And you've sat in those theaters and watched a movie with Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
On any occasion of those 25 to 30 times that you've experienced that with Mr. Reeves and his wife, have you ever seen him get upset over someone texting in the movie?
That situation never occurred. No, he never did.
Did you ever see him get upset with anybody in any of those movie theaters over anything?
No, we always had a great time. It's always lighthearted and fun.
You all had a routine
Yes.
during these later years, correct?
Yes, in the last 5 years.
Tell the court what that routine was.
We would meet for lunch at Sonny's restaurant in Wesley Chapel, because it was halfway between our homes, and have a lunch, and then go to the early matinee movie, and then we would go to Dairy Queen afterwards, and probably sit there for another hour and a half chatting and visiting.
That was a pretty common routine for you all.
Yes.
Do you consider Mr. Reeves a close friend?
Yes.
You consider his wife a close friend?
Yes.
Now, knowing Mr. Reeves as you know him, do you have any concerns whatsoever that if this court were to set a reasonable condition of pretrial release in this case, that this gentleman here, Mr. Reeves, would be a danger to the community?
No.
Object. I think that ultimate decision should be left up to the court.
I understand, it's advisory, there's no jury here. You may continue, Mr. Escobar.
Thank you. Ms. Scalise?
No concerns whatsoever.
Okay. Would you have any concerns whatsoever if the court were to set reasonable conditions of pretrial release that Mr. Reeves would flee and not answer to this court if he was released on some form of pretrial release?
No, he's a very honest, honorable man. He would never do anything like that.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Escobar. Mr. Garcia, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. Mr. Escobar, Mr. Michaels. Mrs. Scalise, good afternoon, ma'am. You indicated that you never saw Mr. Reeves get angry while he was employed with Bush Entertainment?
No, I personally did not.
And you were a secretary to someone else?
Correct.
And where was your office?
I was in the Human Resources building at the last 10 years of my employment.
Okay, and who was your supervisor? Who were you a secretary for?
Well, I was the benefits coordinator, and Gary Vian was the vice president of Human Resources, my superior.
And you indicated there was another lady that was actually Mr. Reeves' secretary, correct?
At that time, yes.
And what was her name?
Margaret Wilson,
And where was her office located?
right outside of his office in the security building.
Okay, and where's the security building in relation to the building that you were working at?
My building is located outside on the perimeter of Busch Gardens on Bougainvillea Avenue, and the security office is located practically in the center near the admissions of Busch Gardens.
All right, so Ms. Scalise, you would agree with me, had Mr. Reeves gotten angry in the building where he was employed or where he was working, you would not have had an opportunity to see that, would you?
No.
In fact, you were in a different building.
Correct.
So you can't honestly sit here and say that he never got mad while employed at Busch Gardens, can you?
True, but we had interactions.
I understand that, but again, my question is, you cannot honestly sit there and say that he never got angry while employed at Busch.
No, I never saw it.
My question is, though, you cannot say he never got angry, correct?
I can't say that.
Up until the time of this incident, had you kept a relationship with Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Were you still going out and having dinners and so on and so forth?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Escobar asked you the fact that you've been to Cobb Movie Theater at least 20 times,
Approximately, yes.
and you've never seen him get upset in the movie theater over texting or anything like that?
No, I never
correct?
saw that.
You would agree with me, would you not, that on January 13th of 2014, you were not at Cobb Movie Theater?
No, I was not.
Right? Is it fair to say that you have no idea what transpired between Mr. Reeves and Mr. Olson that day?
I do not know anything about that situation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Mr. Escobar, do you have any questions?
Just a couple, Your Honor.
Feel compelled to ask?
Ms. Scalise, when was the last time that yourself, your husband, Mr. Reeves, and his wife went to the Cobb Theater?
It was right around Thanksgiving time.
No further questions.
Well, thank you for coming in today, Ms. Scalise. You're excused as a witness. All right. Mr. Escobar, who do you wish to call as your next witness?
We would call Michael Scalise.
Michael, please. Michael Scalise, he wrote a letter, it'd be number 20 in the exhibit book, is that correct?
I believe it's number 20, Your Honor. Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Scalise. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please come on up and take a seat. You may inquire.
Please state your full name for the record.
Michael Joseph Scalise, Sr.
Mr. Scalise, if you could please give the court a little bit of history concerning your employment at Busch Entertainment.
Yes, I started at Busch Gardens in 1970 and started in the parking lot and did various jobs, monorail driver, train. Started in security in 1984 as the area manager there, and was there until 2005 when I retired after 35 years at Busch Gardens.
So, Lisa, say you worked your way up the chain, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you, in 1984, is this correct, you went into management?
Yes, I was, what they do there is they move you in. I was in management prior to that, but I had an area, monorail train, sky ride, grounds, and the night cleaning crew. That's what I was in charge of. And then they move people around periodically. And then I moved into security at that point in 1984 as the same grade level and manager that I was before.
Now, there was a director of security at that time that was not Mr. Reeves, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and you worked under that director of security?
Yes, I did.
How long did you work under that director of security?
He left in 1992. And then in 92, it took a year for them to get a replacement. And there were quite a few applicants that came in, and I had heard that there was some very qualified law enforcement individuals who were going to apply for the job, which in the past that really hadn't been the case. The security was a whole different realm at that time versus law enforcement, quite a big difference. And I applied for that position. I found out a few weeks later that Curtis Reeves was named the director of security there.
So you, after all those years at Busch, you yourself had applied for the position of director of security, and you did not get that position. That's
correct. You think 21 years of service for the company is really all you need to, at that time, is what I thought. Afterwards, I realized it took a lot more than the experience that I had. Just by all the changes and the way society had changed, and there was more need for security to be a big security portion. There was a lot of safety situations with guests when you're dealing with 4 million people a year, and our staff went from 82 to 105 employees, and we started doing a lot more training, a lot of seminars that we were really unable to do prior to Curtis starting with the company.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how Curtis came in and how Curtis changed security for Busch Entertainment. Please tell the court what he did in order to make Busch Entertainment a safe place in today's world.
Well, when he first came in, I thought that we were just going to turn into a law enforcement department at that point, and I think a lot of the security officers at that time did too. You know, we always thought that we were doing a pretty good job, and when Curtis came in, we had a 900 square foot security office at the turnstiles of the front entrance of the park, and a radio system that was already 15 years old. And he didn't come in there, you know, like a bull in the china shop. It surprised me a little bit, and we talked about that, and he just asked, he said, what are the things you've been trying to do for the last 10 years while you've been here that you were unable to get? I mean, when he came on, and I said, would you like to see our mobile unit? And it was we used to own a barbecue place across the street on Busch Boulevard, and we inherited their Chevette with a pig on the roof. And that was our security mobile unit at the time, you know, and I couldn't even get him in it, you know. And we had a big laugh about that, but afterwards, he did a tremendous job in just training seminars and giving our employees the benefit of learning from professionals in the business. Firearms training, handcuff training. We dealt with a lot of counterfeit money we didn't know anything about. There was just weapons training, and we had the bomb squads out on numerous occasions teaching our people what to look for. And just being able to deal with guests a little better than we used to, because we just never really knew how to do it.
Who wrote all the policies and procedures for security for Bush Entertainment after Mr. Reeves was hired?
He did. He wrote with the help of, we had 2 assistant area managers and myself, and he had a great rapport with the other parks as well. The directors from San Diego and Houston and Williamsburg, and by talking to them and just getting together, which he started really, we'd meet 2 or 3 times a year at different locations, and we would we would talk about these things, policies and situations, and we started rewriting policies, which they headed, Curtis headed that group.
So he headed the group not only for Bush Entertainment here in Tampa, but Bush Entertainment throughout the country.
They felt like it was time for them to get everybody working on the same page, and I think it was the right thing to do.
So would you say to this court today that security at Bush Entertainment as a result of Mr. Reeves improved dramatically?
Oh, yeah. He did a lot of things more than just getting our people trained. I mean, he put us in a facility that was just state of the art, and we had generators that would cover us no matter what conditions that were outside. We'd have radio service. We would still have our monitoring system for our cameras and things of that nature, which were very important. And it was a big benefit to that organization as far as I'm concerned.
Now, coming in new, being from law enforcement, coming into Bush Entertainment, how did Mr. Reeves get along with security that was already there?
Well, when you start making your people feel important, I think it was a big benefit. They saw a lot of improvements in their department. He initiated the uniform cleaning, which seemed like a little trivial thing, but to the employees it was a huge thing that they got free laundering of their uniforms. It just made them feel better for themselves, and it made the public look at them a little different. And the other thing, I think the biggest thing is that the employees, the 3,600 employees we had on our location, didn't really respect what security was and what they were doing. And I think that changed over a couple of years. And it wasn't something that you could just do overnight. You had to work at it. And, we appreciated it. And I know they did, too.
You worked hand in hand with Mr. Reeves over all the years of his employment there at Bush Security. Tell the court your opinion of his demeanor and how he carried out himself with every employee of Bush Entertainment.
Well, one of the things that he did that I kind of tried to steer him away from it, but it's an open door policy that employees could walk in any time if they had any kind of problems, whether it be personal or business. And he would open his door for that, and want to talk to them and learn a little more about their personal lives as well as what's going on at Bush. Because he surely wasn't going to take what I was saying. I've been there 21 years. He wanted to hear it from the employees, and I think they really appreciated that. It meant something to them that he cared, not only what they were doing at work, but in their home life as well. And he was always that way. His door was never really shut.
Did you ever find Mr. Reeves to be aggressive or agitated at work, or rude or violent in any way in carrying out, his duties?
No, not at all. Matter of fact, I'm probably more apt to get loud or when I get nervous or I'm agitated about something, or I feel like there's something I want to say or get across than he is. And of course, I've traveled with him all over the United States, going to different associations and organizations that we belong to in the security field, and I had never seen him lose his temper or raise his voice. And to me, I always thought that was interesting because, he was in a position at the police department to, if he wanted to get loud or to throw orders out or be demanding, which he didn't never seem to me that he ever did. And it did surprise me quite a bit. And I think it surprised a lot of people that he got to know, that he would be more quiet and, he would just be so calm. when he talked to you. It was a calming effect.
Now, while working at Bush Entertainment, both you and he attended numerous seminars, is that correct?
That's correct.
And there's some organizations that you became a member of and he became a member of, is that correct?
That's correct.
And there's some special designations that he was able to achieve.
That's correct.
Tell the court about those associations and those special designations.
One of the things when I was at Bush that we never really had an opportunity to do was to go out in the community and reach out to neighborhoods and of people having problems due to our business. I mean, we brought in a lot of people every year, a lot of congestion and traffic and noise and just a lot of things that they probably wouldn't have been used to it otherwise. And they had concerns, and they had no way to really go out and express that. So we were sitting around one day, and Curtis said something about the neighborhood watch, and he said, "Have you guys ever been involved in it?" And I said, "No, I wasn't even sure they even had one at the time." And he said, "Oh, yeah, they do." And so we reached out, and we had our meetings out there on 30th Street. And we started getting more people in from the neighborhoods and bringing up suggestions and things that we could work with them with. And we had a great time. You know, we would talk to them and be able to personable and even bring them in at certain times and have coffee and donuts at the park and just show them what our business was about. And and we gave them cell phone numbers, and if they had problems in their neighborhoods, they could call us. You know, we had mobile units that were already doing the perimeter of our parks anyway, so it worked out very well for us. And that was one thing he did. And also we had, he was the chairman of the West Coast chapter of American Society of Industrial Security, which met.
What does that mean?
Well, they're a security group of professionals. We had the Hillsborough County security directors, and we had all the associated security companies, Wackenhut and some of the others that were around, and businesses that USF and things like that. They would all come and we'd meet, and Curtis became the president of that association. And he also, we actually worked together and trained for the certified personal protection designation, which is the CPP. And at that time, for the American Society of Industrial Security, I believe there were like 6,000 in the United States. So it was a pretty nice designation. And
now that designation wasn't just given to you. You had to actually train for and be tested.
That's correct.
It was an extremely difficult designation to get.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And Curtis became one of, you said, 6,000 individuals in the United States that had that special designation.
That's correct.
Now, I know you mentioned that as part of your occupation there at Bush Entertainment, that you and Curtis would go to seminars around the country.
That's correct.
In order to enhance your abilities in security. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you took your wives as well?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Did you all have an opportunity to engage in a personal relationship?
Yes.
During those particular trips? Not
yes.
just business, but personal?
Yes.
Tell the court about that.
Well, the trips that we took were for another association. It was for the security and safety of theme parks, amusement parks in the United States. So we went to San Diego, California. We'd go to Texas. We'd go to Virginia. We'd go to Chicago. We traveled around numerous times, and probably 12 or 15 different locations that we traveled. And when our wives could take off, they would go and they would be set up, and mainly him and I would be in there working behind closed doors, and they would be out shopping or enjoying themselves at these locations. So my wife and his wife got to be very close friends, and on the other hand, Curtis and I became very close friends.
How did you become very close friends?
Well, we had a lot of interest, for one thing, and I had a lot of respect for just his demeanor and the way he treated people, and it came from a working relationship and just basically became a friendship. And he invited us over to his house for dinner, and we'd do the same for him. And We probably went to the movies, I'm guessing 25, 30 times in the last 10, 12 years, and we always had a routine. We'd go to Sonny's, after Sonny's we'd go to the Cobb, and then after the Cobb we'd go to Dairy Queen and have an ice cream, and we'd talk about our families, and we had a good relationship. We went to their house in North Carolina, and we traveled with them on other vacations that weren't associated with business. We went to Hawaii, we went to Maine, and we've done some things that were just a lot of fun.
So you've had an opportunity to see what it's like day in the life of Curtis Reeves' normal activities, correct?
Correct.
You've had numerous opportunities of that, correct?
Correct.
Tell me what kind of family man he is, what kind of husband he is, what kind of human being he is when he's not in his professional working environment.
Very, him and his family are very much into church. They've always talked about that, how close that is, and made their family closer. Their daughter and their son, I've known them for many, many years. He used to live in Lutz, and maybe 2 or 3 miles from our house. And, you know, Curtis has always been well respected, and my kids always enjoyed being around him. He had a sense of humor which a lot of people don't see, which you wouldn't see unless you were close to him. I don't know, he loves his mother and his kids and his grandchild, and there's just, it's just been a real close relationship. He's been to my mother's house, and he makes himself available for you to talk to and just be a friend.
How does he interact on a personal level with the community? Not on a professional level, but I'm talking about how does he go about dealing with the general populace of the community as a human being?
I would say for a big man, he's very low-key and a quiet individual. Like I said, he's got a good personality, and a lot of people don't see that. And you know, I think in every situation when a person you would think would be, you kind of stand back a little bit waiting for something to happen, and it never does. That shows a lot to me of an individual and how he treats, and he wants to be treated himself, how he treats other people.
Mr. Scalise, based upon your interaction, your knowing Mr. Reeves, is there anything that you feel, if this court were to, at some point in time, enter an order allowing Mr. Reeves to be released on some form of pretrial release, is there anything in your body of knowledge of this gentleman here that would indicate to you that he is a danger to this community in Pasco, or frankly, any community in this country?
I would say no, not at all.
Is there anything that would lead you to believe if the court issued an order of pretrial release that this individual, Mr. Reeves, would be a risk of flight in any way, shape, or form?
No, not at all.
Is he an honorable man?
Honorable, very honorable.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Escobar. Mr. Garcia, do you wish to inquire?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court? Mr. Escobar, Mr. Michaels. Mr. Scalise, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
You indicated that Mr. Reeves trained the security officers at Bush Entertainment on firearm training and weapons training?
Well, I'd like to clear it. He brought in the professionals from the local law enforcement to go over the safety techniques, and then they started at the range training there, and it just escalated from there to where we had the ranges training the officers.
Now, the security officers at Bush Entertainment, did you all carry firearms?
For the weapons carrying, the officers doing the cash runs at night carried weapons.
Okay.
There were about 20, I think, altogether.
Only for cash runs, though, not for security purposes at the park?
No, that's correct.
Okay. Did Mr. Reeves ever get involved in the firearms training as far as when a firearm should be drawn or pulled, those type of situations?
Well, there was procedures and policies that were written that he had to approve to, that stated when and when not you'd be able to do that or carry them.
Okay. Did he instruct any of the employees on the use of deadly force?
Personally, I don't believe he did. I mean,
do you know whether he did or not?
I don't know if he did. I'm assuming he would not have, but
But I'm not asking you to assume, sir. I'm
Okay.
asking you, do you know for a fact whether he did or not?
no, I don't. No, he didn't.
You indicated that while employed at Bush Entertainment, you never saw him to get rude or agitated. Is it fair to say that you would not have been in a position every single day to see if in fact he had ever gotten rude or agitated with either a guest or an employee?
Could you repeat it again, please?
Yes, sir. While you were employed at Bush Entertainment, is it fair to say that you were not with Mr. Reeves while he was employed there 24/7? Is it fair to say that he could have gotten agitated, he could have gotten angry, and you would not have seen it?
That's correct.
So when you said you never saw him get agitated or angry,
That was true.
you personally.
That's true, yes.
However, there could have been occasions
Yes.
that he did, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I thought you indicated that he never lost his temper while employed at the Tampa Police Department.
No, I did not say that.
What did you say in reference to the police department? You had indicated he worked at TPD, and do you recall testifying to that?
Judge, I'm not sure what the prosecutor's getting. He never testified to that.
I don't have it in my notes, Mr. Garcia. It's possible, but I don't remember it. Why don't you ask him a specific question about what he knows now?
Do you know about his career at the Tampa Police Department?
I know he retired as a captain.
Okay. But you're not telling this court that he never lost his temper nor...
I wouldn't have any idea how.
Okay, fair enough. You indicated that he is currently not a danger to the community?
I believe that.
Okay. And you would agree with me that back on January 13th of 2014, your position would have been he wasn't a danger to the community then, correct?
Correct.
And you would agree with me that on January 13th of 2014, you were not at the Cobb Theater?
I was not.
You don't know the facts and circumstances of what transpired in that
No, I
theater,
don't.
correct?
That's correct.
I don't have any other questions, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
I'm sorry, Judge, may I have one moment, please?
Of course.
Mr. Scalise, you indicated that on numerous occasions you had gone to a house in North Carolina that belonged to Mr. Reeves.
Yes.
Where is his house located in North Carolina?
It's just south of Franklin, North Carolina.
Okay, and it's Mr. Reeves' house, correct?
It was.
Now, when did these trips take place? Was it recently? Was it years ago?
It's been in the last, I think, 5-6 years that I was there.
Okay, and to the best of your knowledge, that home was owned by Mr. Reeves?
Correct.
I have nothing further, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Mr. Escobar, any further
Just
questions
one
you feel
question.
compelled to ask?
Are you aware if Mr. Reeves still owns that home?
He does not own that home.
What happened with that home?
They sold it.
No further questions.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming in today, sir. You are excused as witness.
I'm sorry, Judge.
I was just excusing this witness. Who would you like to call as your next witness, Mr. Escobar?
Judge, this time I'll do the questioning.
Yes.
Call Jennifer Shaw.
Jennifer Shaw?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Jennifer Shaw. Feel free to stand up and stretch, ladies and gentlemen. I know how painful those benches are. We just got done with lunch, so if you want to stretch, now's a good time. Good afternoon, Ms. Shaw. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Come on over there and have a seat, please. Mr. Michaels, you may inquire.
Thank you, Judge. Please state your full name,
Jennifer Lee Shaw,
and what is your maiden name?
Reeves.
And how are you related to Curtis Reeves, if you are?
I am related. He is my father.
And how old are you?
40.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I do. I have one brother, Matthew, who is 3 years younger than me.
And before I ask you a little bit about Matthew, let me ask you what you do for a living.
I am the Vice President of Human Resources for a community bank.
And do you have any children?
I do. I have one daughter, Madison. She just turned 2 on Sunday.
Okay. And then you told us that you have a brother named Matthew, right?
Yes, sir.
And what does Matthew do for a living?
Matthew is a police officer with the Tampa Police Department.
And what's your mother's name?
Vivian Reeves.
How old is she?